Hello, Arch 2 students. So, as you probably know by now, or if you don't know by now, you should. You are beginning your linear perspective project this coming week, which basically means that this weekend, each of you has this packet on Google Classrooms to be working on. A couple of you have a paper copy, and you are required to do practice page number 1. Practice page number 2, and this page here where you are to describe the type of city that you would like to portray for your linear perspective project. Now remember, each of the pages like this kind of just explains 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective in a little bit more detail. That way, if you need any reminders or refreshers other than the presentation that is on Google Classrooms, you will be able to look at those. So the purpose of this video is primarily just to show you how to complete the practice pages so that you can make sure that you are doing them correctly. So I'm going to start with this rectangle here, and all I'm going to do is put my ruler on the corner of the rectangle. I'm going to zoom in so that you guys can see that. As you can see, I've got my ruler right here on the very corner of this rectangle, and then I'm also going to put my ruler on the vanishing point. And I'm going to go from corner to vanishing point, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom corner of that exact same shape and go back to my vanishing point. So the first step might look something like that. I know you guys can barely see that. I guess I'll have to just draw a little darker. There we go, that's a little more visible. Now keep in mind you do want to draw lightly because you will be erasing. Then my next step is to close this shape off with a line that is parallel to the front. So right now I'm just drawing right through my shapes, not too concerned about it. And then once I have completed that form, because now it is a form since we have just added the depth, I'm going to erase those diagonal lines that go all the way to the vanishing point because I don't need them anymore. I'm also going to erase the lines that go behind the shapes that are in front of that form, so that essentially this is the front and this space in here would be the side. So I'm just going to go over those lines with a Sharpie so that you guys can see the side a little bit better. Now that should be nothing new to you guys doing the 1-point perspective. So I'm just going to kind of go through these ones quickly. I'm going to go from this corner to my vanishing point. Corner to vanishing point. Because remember, when a shape is above my vanishing point, I'm going to see the bottom and the side. And I'm going to close those off with lines that are parallel to the front. Remember, in 1-point perspective, every single line is going to be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal. Now on the curve, I'm going to use the outer edge of that curve, kind of like a tangent line in your math classes. And then I'm going to close it off with a parallel curve. So hopefully those forms all make sense so far. And then working on this bottom rectangle, corner to vanishing point again. Always make sure that you draw very, very light, unlike I am. I'm going to use a little trick to line my numbers up with this line to make sure that I'm making this top parallel to the front here. And then that side is just going to drop straight down vertically, parallel to this line. And then I'm going to erase, again, those areas that I don't need. Going to move right along to this rectangle now. Oops. Now, once you get more and more used to working in linear perspective, you probably will not even have to draw your lines going all the way back, sort of like how I'm just kind of stopping here. Because once I get used to lining my ruler up with my vanishing point, I don't need to be quite as concerned about making sure that I draw every single diagonal line all the way back. So again, bottom and side, since that form is above my vanishing point. So that would be really useful if you intend to make any floating buildings in your city. So these three are above, these three are on the horizon line, so we only see the front and the side, and then these two are below. So we will see tops and sides on those ones. So remember, the thickness or thinness of your form and your buildings on your linear perspective project is up to you. You do not want them to look like cardboard cutouts. So you do want them to have some thickness to them, but you don't necessarily want them to go all the way back to the vanishing point, unless it's a really small building that is quite far away. Now the last form here is going to be the star. So again, I'm going to go each corner. Now, one thing to remember when working with especially linear perspective is that you want to check every single corner. So for instance, if I check this corner, it would go through my shape. So I'm not going to draw because I don't see through that star. But then if I check this corner, there's just a little sliver here that we're going to see. So you do want to check every single corner. Now this next part is a little trickier. So let's zoom in just a little bit here so you guys can see better. I'm going to make sure that my ruler is parallel with this edge. Draw that line in. And then once I touch this diagonal line, I'm going to come across parallel to this section. So that directional change happens on a diagonal line. Same thing here. I'm going to keep it parallel to this line. And then I'm going to come from this diagonal line out parallel with this line. So then on this edge here, it's such a thin little sliver that that's probably all I'm going to see. So then I just erase those diagonal lines that I don't need to go beyond my form. So that would be exactly how you would do like sort of a weird sort of geometric shaped building within your cityscape they might not be 100% normal. And that's completely an option that you have. So by the time you finish with your 1-point perspective practice page, it should look something like this. To where you are using the corners of each shape to go back toward that vanishing point to show the depth. So each one of these is a side that you will see because of where that form is in relation to the vanishing point. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll zoom in over the whole area here and just go from one form to the next, so that you can start to see and just make sure that you understand exactly how I'm going from each corner and then back to my vanishing point to create the depth that is going to put that form into linear perspective. Now remember, this is 1-point linear perspective. Your next video, after we review this portion, which you should do on your own, will be how to do the 2-point linear perspective practice page.